Welcome to There Must Be More, a Bethel, Ottawa podcast. Remember to like and subscribe on YouTube at Bethel, Ottawa, and follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify Podcasts. Welcome back to There Must Be More podcast, the podcast where we wrestle with the human experience through the truth of Scripture. I did it.
I know.
I crushed it. I always mess up the tagline, but I didn't do it today.
Yes, you killed it, actually.
Thank you.
So proud of
and
you.
I had my podcast voice on. Welcome to There Must Be More podcast.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't paying attention to that part. I was trying not to laugh the whole time.
I looked at you and I saw you smirking, so I looked back at the camera because if I just kept looking at you, I would have started laughing.
I know. And I was really proud of us the last couple times we did it and didn't have to talk about our...
accomplishment.
So I was thinking when in that moment, I'm like, oh man, I've just ruined this with a smirk. And now we're going to have to talk about the accomplishment when we're done. We're never going to be the podcast. And I'm sorry for this, where we can't talk about our intro. Like, that's just who we are.
I know. So if you don't like it, I guess click the 10 second skip, 10 second skip, 10. No, right
I mean, I'm just saying this is who we are.
Skip.
Like, I think we have to just be okay with that.
Yeah,
that's who we have to celebrate the little victories.
And that was my little victory of the day.
And I mean, it's real. Like, it's really hard for us.
It's real. I don't know why. It's hard for us to get everyone. But hey, we did it. We're here. We're back. We're better than ever, dare I say. And we're ready to go.
Better than ever?
I'm just saying that.
Okay.
I'm just saying
that's
that.
Like in the prophetic?
Perhaps.
How are you doing?
I will claim that.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
You must be bolstered in confidence right now.
Oh yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I was a little tired this morning, but now I feel like I got a burst of hi guys.
Gotta shoot a podcast.
No, I was tired this morning.
And so was I. We both were.
Yeah,
we looked at each other and we were like,
I wonder why we were so tired. I think I might have been tired because I've been staying up later than usual.
The weather's really dreary today.
The weather, it was snowing.
That's
what the heck?
Going on? That's an
It's
excellent
cloudy,
point.
snowy.
Where should we move?
I don't like it.
If we were to move somewhere, where should we move?
Florida.
Florida's
Florida.
dangerous. Like, I feel like
they got Disney.
That's true.
It is a little.
If you can stay in the Disney bubble, you're safe.
Yeah, if you could stay in the Disney bubble.
But outside the Disney bubble,
no.
There's
and
gators.
I already shared on here my fear about the gators. I'm scared.
But even those guys sneak into the Disney bubble every once in a while.
I know. Oh,
I know. Let's not.
Okay, it's spooky wooky.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I would say California.
But they're gonna go under.
But not like LA, California.
California.
Yeah.
What where? Where in California then? Where then?
Santa Monica was really cool when I went to Santa Monica.
Oh, I thought that was like just essentially part of LA.
It's kind of like an outskirt, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't want to be right deep in LA.
Like everything's LA, and then there's San Diego and San Francisco.
San Francisco is cool. I hear that San Diego is really cool.
Oh yeah,
actually, I would maybe go to San Diego.
It's very close to Tijuana.
Yeah, Tijuana. I would move to Texas, but Texas is a little bit too.
I think you go Houston if you're going to do that.
Or Austin, maybe.
Well, maybe it's Austin.
Austin's like the cool.
I thought Houston was too.
Manny, tell us.
Manny.
I think I'd like to go to North Dakota.
Really?
No.
Okay. North Carolina, perhaps?
I was thinking maybe like Europe, but you guys are bent on the States.
Oh, yeah, the state. You're talking about the States.
Did I say where do we go in the United States?
No, you didn't.
Okay,
my brain just went there. Europe.
I'd like to go.
I would live in Scotland. I loved Scotland when I went.
Telling Shannon, let's go buy a castle in Scotland.
So Scotland is really, really beautiful, and everyone is so.
How much rain though?
Nice. It rained quite a bit when I was there, and I was only there for like a few days. But I would move to Scotland like tomorrow if I could.
Yeah?
Everyone was so nice.
Yeah,
seems like a fun place.
I like the accents.
So pretty.
The accents.
I might giggle a lot.
Style.
Because that's how God talks to me. He talks to me in a Scottish accent. So,
like the dad from Brave.
Yeah.
I love that guy.
I love it.
Rob,
I love it.
go and do this now. Yes, Lord. That's how I know it's the call, right?
I love that so much. And you just hop on a train, you can go anywhere.
Yeah.
Like I love Scotland so much. Anyways, it's not warm per se, but the girls there were so trendy and stylish. What they wore.
Good.
I loved it. It was really
That's
cool.
a benefit.
It is for me.
The aesthetic, Rob.
Yeah, the aesthetic.
Yeah,
Rob.
that's what you want. You want me to go there, and the aesthetic is attractive ladies
and
with
men in kilts.
like, I don't know.
Literally bagpipers playing in the streets. Literally.
I love that.
I think for me it'd be about like rolling hills and like castles.
Where's
the accents.
the hills are Switzerland?
I would love to move to Switzerland.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's move to Switzerland.
There you go.
Switzerland.
You do have to, I will have to come with you.
And then there's
guys.
mountains.
You cannot leave me here. by
Anyways,
myself.
You're invited.
Okay, great.
I think we need to move where it's cheapest.
So
Maybe not cheapest, but
that's like in the countryside.
anyways, this was quick. Not quick.
No.
I don't know about the wittiness of
Sorry.
it, but it was fun. I want to move to Switzerland. They want to move to Florida or California.
I
Yeah.
mean, Europe would be
Not
great too
Florida for
because
me.
Disney, Paris. So there you go.
Yeah. There you go.
Cool.
There you go.
Cool.
We solved it.
Okay.
Problem solved. Okay, we are in our series. Thanks for sticking with us,
Yeah,
folks.
if you stuck with us
Thanks
this
for
long.
sticking with us.
That was not an example of what we are talking about today.
No, not at all. That was actually a little taste, a little flavor
Yeah.
of what happens when we stop recording the podcast and we just talk about absolute nonsense. But it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. Because we are in what part are we in?
We're
We're
in 4. We're in 3.
No, we're in part 4.
We had
this is
the
our fourth
intro.
episode, and
Fourth
this is
episode
our
of the
third
series.
discipline.
Yes, absolutely.
It's a little confusing.
Yeah, sorry.
Think that through.
Sorry,
So I'm
sorry.
calling it part 3.
Yeah, I'm
As in,
calling it part 4,
I'm-
but
this
it's
is
the third discipline that
Okay.
we're talking
Yeah.
about. And
You
so,
are more correct than I am.
thank you. I'm sorry. I'm glad we're recording that. That never happens
take
to
that
me.
win. Take that win.
Yeah,
That's
I'll
a big
take that
one.
win. I'm gonna hold on with that for a long time. I'm gonna milk that win.
Yeah.
But yes, we are in part 3/4 of our series on spiritual disciplines. And so if you haven't listened, go back and make sure you are caught up. So we
Yes.
talked about prayer. Last week, we talked about being in the Word.
The
and
Word.
That was like a really good conversation,
Yes.
I think personally, you
Yes.
know. But go back and listen to that. And remember to give a little like and a subscribe, share it with a friend.
A thumbsy uppy.
And look on our Instagram, actually, because we want to know how you have a rhythm of reading the Word. Like we're putting that question
Cool.
on Instagram this week.
Yeah.
So make sure you go and look at it because we want to create kind of like a resource for you guys, like we talked about in the last episode.
Yeah.
So make sure you go ahead and do that if you haven't done that already. Okay, Rob.
Yeah.
This week's spiritual discipline.
Oh, goodness gracious.
I know it's a
I
little.
just sounded exactly like my dad.
It's a little tricky, Ricky, for me.
Oh, my, yeah. Like, we are not the people to talk about this.
No, but
I
this
took
is
medicine. I'm taking medicine because I don't know how to do this.
Well, would you say that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe.
I feel like I don't
It's
know.
not your fault though. It's the way your brain
yeah.
is.
Yeah, it's how
No,
your
that's
brain.
whatever.
Yeah,
Then okay.
You
Yeah,
created-
yeah, yeah,
God
yeah,
created
yeah.
you that way, you know.
I can talk. What?
Yeah, you could talk about it. Is that what you said?
Yeah. No. Okay. No, I do think it plays in. But anyways.
So we are talking all about simplicity today
Right.
and the spiritual discipline of simplicity. And I'm going to be quite honest out of the gate. I don't think I do this. I don't think I've ever really been taught how to do this.
True. That's good. That's right. And the world we live in.
And the world we live in, and also just listen, I'm a pastor's daughter, so I've grown up in church my entire life, like literally my entire life. I don't think I've ever. This was never been talked about ever in my experience. I don't know about you guys. Have you? Okay.
No, not
okay.
in
If
any
you're
way.
listening, have you ever
Okay,
been?
I'll
like,
say that
in church setting.
Probably the spirit of it is sort of insinuated most of the time. Like, I think that this, like, everybody would understand it because, yes, it exists, but I have never sat in on a teaching
Yes,
on
that's
no,
what
me
I mean.
neither.
simplicity.
No, never.
Did we tell them what we're talking about yet?
Yeah,
Okay.
we did.
So
Yeah,
simplicity.
we
Like,
did.
I don't think
Simplicity.
we've
It's
ever.
also the title of
Yeah.
the episode. But
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
we did say simplicity
Yeah,
is
okay.
the topic today because.
I don't think I've ever sat in under, hey, how, yeah, no.
Yeah, what is simple living? What does it look like? Why is this important? Like all the things. Like I've never just had that.
Yes. Okay. Wow.
So I think it's an exciting topic. We are not professionals by any means. I mean, we're not professionals at any of these spiritual disciplines. But this one I feel
Who is?
out of my depth a little bit. But this is good because this is going to help me.
It's something we wanted to
get
do.
the ball rolling in my own life and to look at myself, right?
It's something we wanted, like, we didn't want to do just disciplines that,
Everyone
we're
talks
killing it in. And like you said, I'm not a
killing it in any
professional.
of this.
There is not literally a professional in any of this stuff.
No.
There are people maybe who claim, I went and got my PhD in prayer. I don't know. I think that we can all maybe be doing better in areas.
Sure.
And we can have strategies, but I do think it goes back to the uniqueness of who we are. And what's simple for my life might be different for yours.
Right.
Right. So I think that the fact that we just are going to talk about it, wrestle through it, gets us thinking along the lines, excuse me, of how do we start this?
Yeah. Like, where do we even begin?
Where do we begin?
What do we
So
even
why
mean?
don't we begin with the word?
Absolutely.
Because I think that
best place to start.
There's a nice foundation here, and you said I have to read it.
Yeah, you do.
You tried to get me to read it in this weird accent, but I was like, not going to do that.
I liked it.
Yeah.
It wasn't Scottish accent. I don't really know what the accent was, but I liked it.
Yeah. Well,
but I digress. He's not reading in that accent.
No, I'm going to read it from the NLT, and I think it sets good foundation for what we're talking about. So, Matthew 6:19 through 21 from the NLT says this: "Don't store up treasures here on earth, where moths eat them and rust destroys them, and where thieves break in and steal. Store your treasures in heaven, where moths and rust cannot destroy and thieves do not break in and steal. Wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will be also be, it says there." So, this is just like really, because there's no scripture that we looked at that just would go be simple, right?
Yeah.
But simplicity is very much a matter of the heart.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah,
and we're going to talk about like inward simplicity
versus outward
simplicity in a bit.
Yeah.
But first we wanted to start with, because these are Jesus' words here.
Yeah.
We wanted to start with him as the example. And I want to start with him as the example. And I think we should honestly start with Jesus as the example.
Yeah, always.
Always.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
Even like over David, over Moses, over any of those guys,
Yep.
Jesus is our example. He's the one we're trying to strive
that's
to
number one.
be.
That's number one.
So let's look at him, and then let's contrast him to what we actually see in the world.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Okay. So let's start with simplicity. Let's start with an outward sort of consumerism.
Yep.
So Jesus,
Yep.
was he a consumer?
No.
What do you mean?
Was he a consumer?
Yeah.
I don't think he was a consumer.
Did he have name brand sandals?
Some Gucci slides.
All right.
Not that I've seen in scripture. Now, like I wasn't there,
You weren't there.
but I'm gonna assume his little, Jesus sandals weren't Gucci or anything like that.
No.
He wouldn't have been on Preachers and Sneakers.
Preachers and
No.
sneakers, definitely not.
And I even think that the way he went about getting his disciples shows that he was different, right? So
Right.
like, it's hard to like
And-
compare the consumerism of then and now.
Yes. But so consumerism, as in like he just wants more and more and more and more. Actually, we see that Jesus wants less and less and less. And so you talk about the disciples. That's a great example. Another example is when the crowds were growing and growing and growing.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't want these big crowds.
No, I'm out of here.
Like
I'm gonna leave.
Like
Everyone's looking for you, Jesus.
Yeah, he's like,
okay, let's go on.
He's like, I gotta go, and he does.
I'm called to do this. I'm called to go preach. I'm called to go do this
Yes,
other thing.
yeah.
And the reason I also like wanted to have the disciples in there, because if you like say compare it to today,
Yeah.
the idea of being a rabbi in that day, it was like a brand.
Yes.
Like you were a rabbi,
Yeah.
and your disciples were
You were,
the
like,
top
looked up
drawer,
to, yeah.
and you were only brought in as a
Yep.
disciple if you aced your
rabbi exam.
your rabbi tests, your discipleship tests. If you knew your Torah back, and so it was branding,
Yeah.
like very big. And Jesus goes in, I'm going to take you who don't know much,
Yeah.
you who smell like fish,
Yeah.
you who are a jerk with money. Like, I'm going to do
Yeah.
this. I want to
Yeah.
use you guys to build the kingdom of
Yeah.
God. Right? So was branding important to him?
No, definitely not.
No.
His name, like what 100%.
Just didn't.
That's good.
Didn't even.
Yeah.
Well, and we see, and I don't know if maybe this is in the notes, but we see him get angry at consumerism,
Yes.
right? In the church when he's
Yes.
flipping the
Yes.
tables.
Yes.
Clearly was like, no,
Yep.
guys,
Come on.
Yep.
this
Yep.
isn't the place.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
the actual time we see him get mad.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Right? Is
Yep,
at
in the temple,
consumerism.
in the temple.
Why are you
Yep.
turning my father's house
Father's
into
house
a den
a
of
den of thieves.
Oh.
Yep. That's strong wording. Like if you
Thanks, Shannon.
look at that scripture,
Yeah.
he's strong.
Oh yeah.
About what
He
he's
flipped
saying.
the table.
Right.
He fashioned a way.
I wish I would have seen that.
Honestly, same. I wonder in heaven
This
if
is
like
when
we
like
can get
pacifism
there.
left him.
Yeah. If like we can like somehow see what happened in.
Oh,
yeah,
we
like
will.
a big- like
If
a
there's a
movie.
big screen, you can like rewind, and then
be
you can like
awesome.
go back and see how
Play it again.
yeah,
Play
yeah.
it again.
Yeah, like, right. Play it again. My
Wonder if they
popcorn.
Do they
throwing
do
things?
they have that? Do they have
Boo.
that scene in The Chosen?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure it might be
We're
coming.
a little behind.
I'm sure it might.
We're a little
Yeah, I'm
behind.
behind too.
Yeah, we've only
I'm
watched
sure-
2 seasons, so
Oh, okay.
we're like really
I'm waiting
behind.
for the new season to come. I'm caught up with that, but I haven't seen that yet.
Anyways,
okay.
Yeah, he wasn't super worried about brand. He was
yes.
actually against consumerism. Really good ad there, Shen. Thank you for that.
And I think that goes into like the generosity and an abundance aspect of like if we're looking at what he's talking about is like he gave out of the abundance.
Well, he just knew he was taken care of.
Yes.
So he was just able to be generous. He also knew the miraculous giving of the Father, right? So like, did he worry about Lazarus?
Right.
Like even to the point where it made people go, "What is wrong with you, man? Like we're telling you that this guy is dead, and you have," and he's just like, he's like, "Yeah, I'm
making
coming.
your merry way on over, just taking your time,
Take it easy." Or like the wine.
Yeah.
Right? Was he stressed about that?
Right.
No, he's just kind of like, "Oh, I didn't really want to."
Yeah. He
Start
was like,
here.
this isn't what I want to do.
My
But
time has not yet come.
yes,
But, you know,
yes, exactly.
The Father will provide. Yeah. Let's just do this. Like,
Right.
He just kind of believed, and I don't know. The difference between generosity and like self-absorbed, I really honestly believe does break down to that like abundance mentality versus poverty mentality. And not in a sense of I am owed abundance, and not in a sense of my God will make me rich, and not in that kind of way. Jesus wasn't rich the way that we think of rich.
Yeah.
But he knew the abundance of heaven.
Yeah.
He knew that what was needed in the moment for kingdom living would exist and be made available to him. Right? Whereas we like the stuff where moth and rust destroy.
Yep.
And maybe he's not concerned in that area.
Yeah.
And so when we see other people gaining, we can often go, "Oh, but I need that. And if they get all of that, then I can't have any of that.
Yeah.
And I
And
need
I
to go
want
get
that
me some
too."
of that."
Yep.
Right? And it's all stuff
Right.
that's going to die anyways.
Right.
But that gives us that poverty mentality.
Yeah.
Even when we have more than most places.
Yep.
Like we're in the 1% of the world.
Yep.
And we still have a poverty mentality of it's going to go. It's going to be gone.
And I'm
going to lose it.
I need
I
that.
want it.
And I need to hold on to it. Right? That's
just not how Jesus lived.
Not how Jesus lived. And that's not a simplicity mindset of living, right?
Well, it's not because it takes over your everything.
Yep.
Jesus just literally walked around going, God will take care of that.
Yep.
And,
And like you said, it's self like you said,
Father
it's
will take
self-absorbed, right? And
Yeah, and
so
he's not
you can't
self-absorbed.
he's not self-absorbed. You can't have simplicity when you're self-absorbed.
No.
They just won't they don't work together. They go against each other.
Absolutely.
Big time. Also, I think what Jesus models in simplicity too, we see is he's completely detached from the society or the culture that he's living in. Like
and affecting it at the same time.
at the same time. Like he's not searching for who he is, or he's not getting his ego stroked by the society, by the culture, by the people.
Yes.
Right? We said the big crowds. Like
Yes.
if he was, he would welcome the big crowds.
Yeah.
Right? He would say, "Oh yeah, more. Get all the people here so they could hear exactly what I'm saying."
Yeah.
And he did the exact opposite of that. Whereas like we try, I think, to find our identity and our attachment in all these worldly things. Right?
100%. And like, even I can go to like what Jesus was called to do. Jesus was called to go preach the good news, show the miracles of heaven, bring kingdom of heaven to earth for people to recognize and to confess their sins and accept God, right? And then he was to give his life completely detached, and he just did what the Father told him to do in that.
Right.
Now, say Jesus was a CEO today in a business, because we're all supposed to be like Jesus. And if you're a follower of Jesus, then you're called to act like him. Okay.
Right.
How do you CEO that? How do you CEO your business? Is it about making sure that the all the folks are getting their nice bonuses at Christmas? Like, does that show Jesus?
Right.
Right? And that's really hard. That's a hard, because you can't just go, okay, everybody, you're not going to get your, all you investors, sorry, but I'm going to look more like Jesus this year. You get nothing.
Yeah. Keep it simple, folks.
But when
Nothing for you.
we start the things, when we are in the things, are we asking God, how do I actually show you Jesus in my company? How do I show you Jesus in my art?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be cheesy Christian stuff.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Exactly.
But you are the greatest showing of Jesus.
Showmanship of Jesus. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Not necessarily your picture you do. Not necessarily the book you write.
Right.
So are we asking those questions? Because that will simplify
It's
what
good.
you do.
Yeah.
It will simplify your heart in the matter.
Yeah.
And no longer do you necessarily need to be the greatest, the biggest, number one, destroying everybody else in the process.
Right.
But you're showing Jesus in what you do.
Yeah, that's really good.
Hopefully.
Something that you brought up, you talked about like Jesus had his limits. And I want you to unpack that because what you said was when we had a discussion about this earlier off of the recording and the microphones.
Yeah,
was really good. And I was like, I have never thought of Jesus in this way. Yeah.
It's really interesting because what we end up doing, right, is me and Sarah talk about things beforehand. So we talk about these days before, a day before.
I feel like we get all the good stuff out then.
And sometimes that happens. And so hopefully I can do it a little bit of justice. And it's interesting because I kind of get the importance of limits from Peter Scazzaro when he talks about emotionally healthy spirituality. But then when I read what he talks about limits, it doesn't necessarily apply directly to what we're talking about.
Right.
But it's still all in the same ballpark. So the beautiful thing about Jesus is that Jesus did limit himself. He actually was limitless. Like he could have at any moment asked angels to save him. He had the ability to do miracles everywhere he went. Yep. Every one of them would work, right? Like he could answer all prayer, but he didn't always. Even we see it with Lazarus. He didn't always he didn't always use everything at his disposal.
Right.
And so in doing that, he was trying to show the will of the Father, right? And it was not about him. It was about what the Father wanted. That was his purpose.
Yeah.
To show what we as humans actually can live and do and be in as well. So limiting yourself is something that you are called to do as a follower of Jesus. You don't get everything you want. You don't get every desire. Yes. Jesus did not walk in every desire. He did not walk in every want. He completely did the will of the Father. And like literally that was his focus.
Right.
Like what did the Father say and what has he called me to do? And I'm going to go do that.
I'm going to do it. Yeah.
Right? We actually are called to the same purpose. And the hard thing for us is that we get wrapped up in the possible limitlessness of the kingdom. You know what I mean? Like we can get more excited about the outcomes of what God can give us than what he's already given us and what the present now is. Yeah. Like I am more inclined to think of the possibilities than to exist with him now.
Right.
And when we do that, we are consistently living in this limitless utopia of has not happened.
Yeah.
And will that ever? Because we're always chasing it.
Yeah. Or
should we be living in the now, which is still kingdom of God? It's still, we're in the limitless, but he's limited us to the right now.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And that's where Jesus always was. Everywhere he went, he was just present with the Father.
Yes.
Everywhere he went, he was limited to the right now. I'm going to deal with right now. I woke up and you told me Lazarus died. Yeah. Well, right now, I'm not going to go there.
Yeah. Right now, I'm going to be sad.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right now, I'm going to cry.
Exactly.
And with my friends.
And how often do we do that? Even think about when we're trying to help one another.
Yeah.
Do we live in the right now with them or do we try to get them to the next?
Yeah. Yep.
And what's more beneficial?
Yeah.
Just sitting in grief with someone or trying to solve their problem? Right?
Yep. And that's the simplicity that we're talking about.
Yeah, it has limits.
It has limits.
Give yourself limits on things and it frees you up, really.
Yeah.
Like in so many ways. And like, oh man, and we can go on for days about that. But just very simply, if you live in the limits of what God has called you to do that. And then you're working and living within the simplicity of that one thing he's asked you to do, go do it.
Yep.
Right? And do it with everything you've got. Do it with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Don't be scared to do it.
Right.
If he's called you to step out and do it, do it. I can't promise you he's going to make you rich doing it.
Yeah.
Right? But still, we end up living in the everything, absolutely everything. No limits. Bring it all in. I want it all. Yeah. And Jesus just never lived that way.
Never lived that way. And having all the extra and the extra and the extra and extra, that's not simple living. Yeah. That's not simplicity that we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
And what Jesus shows us.
So yeah. So, really and good. I absolutely did not do it justice from what we talked about yesterday, but we went.
No, that was so fun. Good. Yeah. No, that was really, really good. That's good. Okay. So how in this world that we're in right now, how we're living, our society, our culture, even our church life. Like we're not just talking about secular versus church world, right? Talking the world as it is, as a whole. how do we live simple lives then?
Well, I think you actually need to answer that question because I went on and on forever there. Okay. So, Sarah.
Yep.
How do we do that?
Right.
Like it is actually, I think that a lot of people haven't even made this a part of their thought process.
100%.
Let alone getting it into our heart in any way.
Yeah.
So
with that, I would say that we need to start slow.
Of course.
Like we're not going to jump from like having absolutely like 0% simplicity to then tomorrow 100%. Yeah. Right? So I think start slow and take inventory. So like you need to ask yourself, what area might I be able to bring simplicity to in my life? Like look at all the areas of your life, work, home life, relationships, church, like everything that you do, what can be simplified? Where am I, maybe you're listening to like Rob speak about the more and the more and the more, like where do I see myself being a consumer of like, I'm trying to get more of this.
And
I'm trying to be more like this. And why, right? So sit with you and the Holy Spirit and say, okay, God, where can I simplify my life? Where am I just like on a hamster wheel of like trying to get that I'm just like missing everything.
Yeah.
And where can I like slow down and be more simple in my life?
Yeah, I think like a great example of a place to something that like you see in the world that I would think would be a good place to go. Oh, I need to ask why. So look at the Stanley mugs for some reason. These things are gigantic, Stanley right? Cups. But like they are so important to people that people are like going into debt to make sure, or like spending money they don't have to make sure their kids have this.
Or like fighting people at Target.
Body checking people, you said, right? In stores. Yes. I'm pretty sure that wouldn't be Jesus. So
that is probably the perfect example of overconsumption that we have right now, I think, because it's like, okay, this mug is created to help reduce waste, right? To reduce waste of water bottles going into landfills and
plastic,
stuff. But so the point would be you buy one, you use it over and over and over. But people are buying 50 of them.
Yeah. And then they want the pink one. Filling
their cupboards. Like you can't even use that many.
No.
Like,
and they're huge. They're ginormous.
There's one thing to have a collection. Like I am going to be starting a collection of fountain pens. So I'm not going to poo-poo on the collectors. But the question is to ask why.
It's a little different.
The question is to ask why. Why do you need that many?
Exactly.
And why do you need the status symbol of it? Yeah. So this is that inner, like often our outer chaos is a reflection of the inner chaos.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And honestly, what we're saying is a very simple practice of simplicity.
Yeah.
Sit down and be present with God and ask.
Yep.
Where can I be more simple?
Yep.
That in itself is the starting point.
Yes.
It's just so easy.
Yep.
And I'm not going to tell you how many minutes to do it.
Yeah.
You're good if you do 5.
Yeah.
You're also great if you do 30.
Yep. Do what works for you.
Whatever works for you.
Just do it. Just do it.
And ask that question. Yep. Write it down.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I don't write. You won't remember. You won't remember it. So you have to either write it down or put it in like a voice memo or something like that. But you've got to do something to record what God reveals to you.
Yeah, I would say write it down. And if you don't know what to say, or like you could just ask him, like, what am I hanging on to? What do I need to let go of? What do I need to forgive? Who do I need to forgive? Do I need to forgive myself? What have people said about me that I'm holding on to? Like, start asking all these questions of like where you can find simplicity just in those instances.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I'll just go straight up to this. When I am a person who goes out and overspends, it's because I need dopamine.
Yeah.
Or Same. I feel I need dopamine. Yeah. And I'm going, I am exhausted, or I'm overworking myself.
Yeah.
I'm maybe taking in too many people's
stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
Whatever that is. Yep. Or maybe, and I just need,
or I'm just struggling that day.
I don't know how to get this dopamine hit.
Yep. And
the ways that I do it, I'm going to fess up here.
Yeah.
Is I either go and eat.
Yep.
And I don't just, I'm not a binge eater, but I go and I forage.
Yeah.
So I wander around the house.
You're on the hunt.
And here's the thing. There's nothing healthy in the cupboards.
I know.
There is nothing healthy
chips.
in the cupboards.
Yeah.
But that's where I forage.
Yeah.
And I do that. So that's one way that I might do that. Another thing is like Amazon. I need some stationery.
Oh my gosh, literally. Amazon, it's books for me. I'm like, I need this. I need this right now.
Right? Yeah. But okay, books at least, you're going to read them, and at least half of them are going to like make you smarter.
At least 20% of them. Right. But yes. It's like you have to ask yourself, okay, why am I, like you said, your lack of simplicity is the reflection of the inner chaos going inside. So you need to figure out, why do I have this chaos or this unhealthy coping mechanism, like whatever it may be. So first place to start, you need to ask God, bring God into it, because he wants to help you live a simpler life, right? And we'll get into it. But like when you have a simpler life, there's so much fruit that will come from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we can't see it because it's too loud.
Right.
We can't see what the benefit is because it's too busy. And the things that we are actually striving for are what moths and rust destroy, right? And it's just real. Like, you look at what the American dream is. It's a house. Here's the truth about your house. Someday that's either going to be torn down or it's going to belong to Bob Johnson. Like, it's just...
Who's Bob Johnson?
The guy who's buying their house.
The house developer? Okay,
I don't know. But it's not... Like, this is not your thing. Like, this is just wood. It's a nice... You're going to create beautiful memories, and I don't want to take those away.
Yep.
But, like, it's not the greatest.
Yeah.
Right? What else do we really... Where do we put our hopes and our desires? We put it in money. We put it in positions. We do those kind of things, and none of those... And it's just been shown over and over again. The top money getters, there's like this peak of money, and it's really not that high. Like, money does affect happiness. I can't pretend like it doesn't. It actually does, and data shows it does.
And makes you less stressed.
Well, and then there's actually a limit, though, and it's really not that high of a limit, and I can't say what the limit is, but it's not like in the millions and billions. Like it's really not that much that you can go, okay, I can meet this need, and I'm happy. My kids are taken care of, whatever. But like, the chasing after money is a literal heart issue that we need to address. We need to get to the bottom of it and go, this is something that literally will be destroyed.
Right.
All these things will be destroyed.
Right.
That's what he's talking about.
And the verse that you shared in Matthew, the last verse in 21 says, wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will also be.
Right. So this kind of brings up a chicken and which came first, the chicken or the egg? Right? Does it take your heart loving Jesus to make the desires of your heart, or does it take the desires of your heart to love Jesus? It's the first. Jesus will give you the desires of your heart.
Yep.
And I've said
when
this,
your heart's in the right place.
I've said this to many, many people with a microphone and in front of them. Like, give him what right now are the actual desires of your heart. Tell him. Stop pretending. Stop pretending like it's something holy and righteous.
Yeah, like, oh, I just want to spend more time in your
I just want to pray.
Yeah.
No, like...
Which is a good thing, and that's a great desire to have.
But not if it's not...
But not if it's not true. Not if you're just giving him what he thinks he wants to hear.
If your desire of your heart is to run a business, give it to him.
Yeah. Because
he can bless that. But then you're also including him in that so that he can change what needs to be changed and he can do what needs to be done.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
That's it. And let him give you the design, and let him just mold that.
Yep. Shape it.
And then it's simple too.
He's the potter, we're the
Makes
clay.
it simple.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Because honestly, we don't know what we're doing. Most people in the world
in life.
do not know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Everybody feels like an imposter.
Yeah.
Well, just let Jesus make that easier. Seriously.
Yeah.
Let him make it simple.
Honestly, yeah. So that's where you start. Ask him, talk to him, take inventory, sit with it, and record what he's saying so you can look through and figure out what needs to change or where you could bring simplicity into.
Oh, yes. So this is where we start.
Yep, that's a good starting point. Yep.
But where does it take us? So we probably left people with like a lot.
Yeah.
Right. There's a lot of information.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ways that we are not simple. And we've hit a lot of consumerism, and we're saying consumerism is attached directly to our heart. So can we give maybe some practical examples of what a simple life can look like? Like, what are we trying to get to? Yeah.
So like we always say here, Jesus is the model. Like if you're tired of hearing us say that,
you're going to need to
need to
go to a different
that's a you
podcast.
problem. That's a you problem because Jesus is literally our model. Yeah. And so when we have simplicity in our life, it should bring up contentment. So we should be living a a life of contentment. We should be content with where we're at. So
that's a hard one. Like that's a hard one because like
yes, I'm not saying it's easy. This is what the fruit of simplicity will bring. Like we need to be like learning to be okay in all of our circumstances that we're in.
This is key because I think a lot of people hear contentment and say, well, that means crush your dreams.
No.
Just be okay.
When would you ever think Jesus would stand in front of you and look you in the eyeballs and say, take that dream and just like, I don't care about that dream. I don't care about that dream at all.
Oh, I think lots of people think that. I think lots of people.
That's sad, but that doesn't line up with the nature of Jesus.
I agree with you.
And last week we were talking about being in the Word, and this is why it's important to know the Word, because if someone was to come up to me and say like, Jesus does not care one iota about that dream that's in your heart, I'd be like, actually, my Bible tells me otherwise, and who Jesus is tells me otherwise. That's why it's important.
Don't you think though that people don't do things out of a fear that they're acting selfishly,
100%,
acting foolishly, acting, and that they think that the answer is to only, like, for lack of a better word, be super simple and I don't know, work 9 to 5, make sure that you make this much, have your house, go to church. Right. When there's something deeper in there and like, oh, that's too selfish to do. Right? Don't you think that exists?
I think it does.
I do.
I think it exists. I don't know why.
Well, I think that it comes out of works-based understanding of God. Like there's something that was taught to us in the 19th or the 20th century that was very based upon what you do equals God's love for you. Right? And then you tie that in with righteousness discussion, and then you also tie that in with this very nuanced understanding, we like to talk about what is right and wrong about things on, say, like social media, on popularity, on how you look, so branding and stuff like that. So we do talk about that, right? But often I think that it can come to people as all of it's bad.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, say, caring about thumbs up on a
podcast.
Right. Yep. That's wrong. It's like, depends on, right? Depends on where your heart is at with this. Motive, like, what is this because you think that directly reflects on you and now your identity is torn away because, oh, people don't like me. Yeah. Or are you looking at that and going, well, we want to see a trajectory of this thing because we have a message. Yeah. And the message is the thing, not us. Not us, yeah. Right? And so if that's the thing with your business, I have a message that I want to share. I want to help people. And so likes and branding, how it looks, all of that stuff matters. Like, we can't say that they don't. Right. They do. Even in church, they do. Yep. Right? Yep. We care about how the church presents itself for people, right? So that they can feel like a part of it, and we care if they experience it well, and all of this, right? Yeah. But there's something I feel that was taught to us where we go, all of that stuff is selfish.
I think we forget that. Oh, I wish I knew what the scripture reference was, though. But isn't there a verse that says, "Do all things in excellence"?
As unto the Lord. As unto
the Lord.
Okay, so I think about a church scenario, right? Yeah. Where your worship team, they're putting in lots of work, practicing because they want it to be their best. Then you have some rando saying, you're just doing this to show off. You're just doing this because blah, 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 blah. And like, people really, really like to judge motivations. Yeah. Yes. And like, I think when we talk about not judging others, that's the type of thing that we need to be really cautious of. Like, assuming we know people's motivations behind why they do what they do is where we really need to hold back and be cautious. Because then we need to look at our motivation. Why are we judging that? Oh. Is it because we feel like inadequate? We feel envious, we feel whatever, like
maybe our motives are off in our life.
Exactly.
And we're projecting.
Totally. And we actually get into that. So contentment is a really great place to start. Yeah. Like, the contentment is talking about whatever the thing, wherever you are, like, listen to what God is saying. Do what he tells you to do. You'll find contentment in that, but also in that process, be content that he is at work. be content that he's in it. Because this can be anything. You could be single and whatever age and be going, oh, I can't until I have that person.
Right.
Okay, listen, he's in your life.
Yes.
Be content with what you have.
Yes.
You could have a this and you could be like, oh, this year's not going well. It's our first year. It's not happening. I need to do things to make this whatever. But be content. Doesn't mean don't strategize. I mean, but be content with what that God is at work, that he is doing a thing. Yep. Right. And if you are abiding in Jesus, that contentment means you will be able to weather storms.
Yes.
Go through walls.
Yep.
Go to your cross.
Yep.
Right.
Wait. Right. Wait.
Yeah.
Well.
Yes.
Like when. Living a simple life, the fruit of that should be contentment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you know that the greatest indicator of entrepreneurial success isn't actually skill and their ability?
What is that?
It's their ability to wait through.
Wow. Interesting.
Like the strongest entrepreneurs failed how many times?
Yeah.
And even when they are successful in the thing, are willing to wait out what's difficult. Most of us are not content.
No.
This isn't answering this other desire, so I'm going to go to Amazon. I'm going to spend all my money. I'm going to get those dopamine hits.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same with exercise. Like the ones who they know how to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
They know how to have setbacks.
Yep. And push through when they don't see the results
And
they want.
There just is a contentment in the process. Well, this life is a process.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Oof, is it ever?
Yeah. So I love contentment as something that we will become as we become people of simplicity.
Yep.
I like the next one too, is generosity. And I love Shannon's heart for this. So I don't even know if you can speak to that at all, Shannon. But generosity is Jesus. Jesus gave literally everything.
Yeah.
Like the perfect man gave everything. If that's not generous, I don't know what is. But what I love about Shannon, she's like, if I gain wealth, kind of, I'm paraphrasing for you, so I apologize. And I'm speaking for you. But you don't know where this is going, so...
No, I'm not jumping in until I know where you're going.
Exactly. But Shannon has this kind of mentality of like, I don't actually want money because I need to be rich. Like, we've had all kinds of circumstances, and God just literally provides. Like, I don't mean this to gloat in any way, but there's a time he asked us to give money we didn't have to give, right? And okay, so we gave it, and I don't even remember any pain from it, honestly. Like, he just takes care of us. But Shannon's heart for generosity is this. I want more so I can give more. Like, I feel like I'm a generous person who can't be as generous as I want to be.
I think she said resources. Like, I wish I
sure.
all the resources to then, I thought that was
me and her have had tons of conversations about this.
This and this. She said this earlier.
But so I'm just thinking in the financial realm. Fine. Yeah. But that's a resource. Yeah, right? Exactly. So I would like to be able to be as generous as I feel I am. So I don't know if you want to talk to that at all, Shannon, but...
Well, yeah, I just want to be able to meet people's needs, right? Like someone, and also I want to be able to do it without questioning their motivation behind it. Okay, good. So like recently, there was a man who walked into the church. His whole story is his family came here from Pakistan. I think he's working on getting his permanent residency.
I think it was Afghanistan.
Afghanistan? Yeah. Okay. I keep saying Pakistan for everything. Afghanistan.
Well, you didn't need to like announce that part of it, so nobody else knew about your
Nobody else knew about our other country. That's fine.
I was trying to remember which country it was, but yeah, you might be right. It
was Afghanistan. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyways, he comes in and tells me this story, and sometimes like we get a lot of people who come into the church looking for stuff, and sometimes you can feel like, they just asking, they just want this, blah, blah, blah. But his heart was so pure, and he was so kind, and he was basically just saying like, I have two brothers that are still in Afghanistan, and they are they are in hiding from the Taliban. Wow. And we left because the Taliban was after us. And so he's here. He's got 3 kids. They get, some money from the government as refugees, but not even close to enough to cover their needs, right? Yeah. So, okay, he's like looking. He's like, I just need a little bit more to help pay my rent. is there anything you can do? And we have some funding within the church to be able to help people in need. And then we're able to send him to the care center to get some food for his kids. Like he's like, I should want some snacks for them for their lunches, for school, and blah, 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 blah. But also, I really need a computer. And so like this was, I don't know, a month ago. And I just really want to get this man a computer because he's trying to take a computer science course and he can't do it, as well as he can because he needs his computer. And so anyways, you hear stories like this and my heart goes out to him. And I want to be able to help everybody that needs help with those kinds of things.
Yep.
I like when you throw in and without asking about their intent. And because that hits me. I feel like we all either we're worried about looking like fools.
Yeah.
Or
we don't want to be conned.
And we judge the motive of like, they're just going to spend this on this. Or whatever,
yeah, exactly. Right? And it's like, I would rather, that's on them.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's like, I'll take care of that need. Oh, you lied? Oh, well, that makes you a liar. That stinks.
Yeah.
That's not me. I'm not a liar. I just gave generously. Cool. Yeah. Why don't we just get him a computer?
Yeah, exactly. But like the whole point of it is I want to be able to provide things that people need. And unfortunately, there is a limit because we still have a family to take care of and we have to make sure our bills are paid and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like, I just want to,
Here's a question actually that goes with that. And I put this back to something that happened with me. Do you feel like God's asking you to do it?
Yeah, I was just gonna say
because that means that means we have to do it. Like
it was a month ago, and you still have like a tug on your heart.
And the example I have is like when I was driving once, and there's a guy standing with the sign, and I don't give money typically, right? But God's like, go to the drive-thru and buy that guy a meal. I was like, oh. That's my head. It wasn't a Scottish accent, so that's not God. Right. And so then and he's like, you're not going to do this? I'm like, no. Now I've gone through the light. He's like, really? You're not going to do this? And I was like, I said a third time, no. And I just kept passing on. He's like, then he put it in my heart, how am I supposed to trust you with bigger things if you won't do this one little thing? Yeah. I was like, turned around, went through the drive-thru and got him a sandwich. I honestly, that was more for me than it was for him, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah.
But this is the thing. If God's asking you to do that, the simple answer is, I will do it. And it's possibly more for you than it is for even him.
Yeah. And we'll just believe that, God takes care of the rest.
Yeah.
And
he does.
In our circumstances,
but he does every time.
Yep. Even in my experience, he does every time. Yep. 100%.
So there's your sorry, Shan, but that's
what kind of computer do you think he needs?
He just needs a Windows-based computer.
We actually had a Mac that could have been lined up for him, but he needed a Windows.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be anything
here's a better computer.
Crazy, but something that's going to work that he can get on. He can do his classes. He can get in his Word, Office products, all that kind of stuff. So, anyways, it's just I want as Christians we should be so generous and we should be meeting people's needs.
And you know what's the beautiful thing that's possible about this is that you could reach out to him again, and he'll be like, they're still thinking about me.
Yeah.
Well,
and here's the thing. And I mean, our generosity doesn't always have to be financial and monetary.
Fiduciary.
Our generosity can be,
It's a word. I don't know if it's the right word.
I was going to say it's fiduciary.
It's probably not the right word, but I liked it.
Our generosity can be with our kindness, right? So when he came in, he tells the story, and I'm like, I don't know what we can do for you, but we'll look into it. And he's like, you know what? Just thank you for listening. Thank you for being kind. And Rob was there too, and I was really glad he was there as well, because he's like, I've been to a lot of churches, and this is the part that hurt the worst, and they won't listen to me, and they're rude to me. And they just didn't treat him with kindness, And I was like, and the reason, I know why. Yeah. Because we're skeptical. We're skeptical of the people's motivations. Yes. And it's like that, if our judgment of motivations means that we're not being kind and we're not being loving, then we're not being Jesus followers in those moments. Yeah. And so that's why we really need to not worry about that.
Right. And that motive is not my business.
Yeah, exactly.
My business is, what do I feel God's asking me to do in this situation or this circumstance? And how am I going to do it? How am I going to be obedient, like Jesus was, to what the purpose of this circumstance or situation or conversation was?
Exactly.
The rest of it's not my business. Yeah. What my business is what God is speaking to me in, and if I'm being obedient.
Yeah.
Here's one thing I want to be clear, maybe you guys can correct me on this if I'm wrong, but I've always heard from people, if you didn't do it the moment he asked, you were disobedient.
No,
and I don't like that.
I agree. I think I get the sentiment behind it, which is like, once you hear it, just be obedient and do what he says. But sometimes it takes the nudging, like you said. It took.
And isn't there also it's okay for a room for discernment and 100%, learning and a process 100%. That he wants to walk you through.
And I think after the third time of God being like, Rob, you got to go do this. He was pleased with you that you made the decision to be obedient. It didn't matter how long it took.
No, and I'm not trying to avoid guilt, but what I actually want to do is go like, one, are there too many people who think they know the voice of God and they act on everything that jumps in their head right away when they hear it?
Yeah.
But like, our God is not this finger-waving God.
Yeah.
He's working on us and with us, and like, he didn't let it go in Shannon. Was he mad at you the whole time? Is he mad at you now? Is he going, well, now I'm not going to show up in your devotional time or your prayer time because you were like,
he's not going to withhold something from us, because again, that goes against the very nature of Jesus.
Yes.
And that's why we need to know what the word says, because the word teaches us about Jesus.
And so the simplicity of our generosity is just to be able to go to God and let him lead that and guide that and not bring condemnation into it.
Yes.
Just let him teach us how to be generous.
Exactly.
And I just want to read this scripture, Matthew 25:35. For I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me a drink. I was a stranger and you invited me into your home. And now I'm going to cry.
Perfect. We need more tears in this because me and Sarah aren't the tear people.
I was naked and you gave me clothing. I was sick and you cared for me. I was in prison and you visited me. And he's not saying, you did this and then also asked why I needed it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You just did it because that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and then he doesn't go at the end either. Oh, you did that, but you looked like a fool because they took you. Mm. And this is like our biggest concern. I don't want to look like a fool. Who cares? Jesus, we had a whole episode on Jesus the fool.
Yeah, we did. Go back.
If your worry is not looking like a fool, then I'm sorry, but maybe that your concerns are where moth and rust destroy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He'll take care of the foolishness. It just means that you're showing your generous heart. If it's fool to be generous, then I guess I'm an idiot.
Yeah. And I think that verse too, Shan, just like sums up the simplicity that we're supposed to live in.
Yeah.
That is how we are just simply supposed to live as Jesus. That verse is really it.
Yep. Okay.
Beautiful.
You put in this when we were talking. It helps us to show compassion. I think that was just... That just came out right now.
That just came out. I was going to say that just came out right now.
Yeah.
When we have simplicity in our lives. So there's this really good book we always talk about this guy, John Mark Comer, called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry.
Don't worry about his black shirts. I think he owns other ones.
We think this is our theory. We think John Mark Comer lives a life of simplicity because he always wears the same outfit. Like, I don't think he's buying any new clothes.
No, I think he just owns like 10 black shirts that he all bought on one day.
Rotates through.
Made it simple.
That's our theory. Anyways,
John, if you're watching,
John Mark, let us know.
Can you answer this?
Yeah, send us a DM. Okay. Yeah. So, he writes a book. He wrote a book called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. Mm-hmm. And like sidebar, every Christian should read that book.
I think that's a huge thing to do with simplicity. Right on.
Yes, exactly. So he talks a lot about simplicity and this like not being in a hurry all the time, that they kind of go hand in hand. And he talks about it all through the lens of Jesus, how Jesus modeled this and stuff. And so he said, when we are living a simple life and we're slowing down and we're taking inventory, like we talked about when we're trying to be content and how we are living and we're generous, naturally the fruit that comes out of that is compassion. And I think Shannon just explained that so well, especially with that verse. Like she didn't know we were like going this way, but
I know.
It should lead us to be compassionate people. And so if you are a Jesus follower and you are not compassionate, I'm speaking for myself. I'm not speaking on behalf of anybody else in this room or the organization that I work for, the church I work for. I'm saying, in my personal opinion, if you are not a compassionate or empathetic person, you're not following Jesus. I'm sorry. You're just not. Because Jesus in its very nature is empathy and compassion and care and love. Mm-hmm. And if we are not modeling that, if there's no fruit of that in our life, if there is no simple way of living that leads us to compassion, we are not following the Jesus that I know and love.
Or if at the very least, if we're not at least trying to, right?
Working towards.
Yes.
Working towards.
And that might be 100%. An area of work that some people need more than others.
Yeah.
an important factor right off the bat is to recognize.
Yep. That it's not all about us. It's not all about me. It's not all about you. We've talked about this. We talked about Jesus in the abundance versus a self-absorbedness, right? And so out of the abundance, that's where the compassion comes. Like all those streams come to compassion because it's not self-absorbed.
No. Yeah. No, I love that. And I'm just going to join you in that for me. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's what God has called me to. Mm-hmm. I think he's called me to compassion. I think he's called me to empathy. Don't mix that up with I have time for everybody. Like I don't. Yes. I just can't. Yeah. And I can't take the weight
There's still limits on that.
I can't take the weight of every human's problem. Yeah. And I can't care about every situation that's going on in the world. I have to go where God puts me. And so something I like to tell people come to me all the time with, we need to care more about this, and we need to care more about this, and we need to care more about this. Right. And here, you know what? No, we don't. Maybe you do. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah,
so
maybe God's asking
if that's something you are caring desperately for, what is he asking you to do about it? Because he's never told me anything about it. And unless you're telling me that I'm not sitting with the Lord and listening, or there's something in my way of hearing him, this is for you, right? And so God has called me to be the type of empathetic person I am called to be right now. A part of that is making more time for my family because they are my first. Yeah, they're the front row in my funeral.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Those are my people.
Yeah.
And if I don't do it well there, then I'm not going to do it. But he has called me to be a person of empathy. Mm-hmm. And I think he's just told all of us that.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
But it starts here. So like, don't take that and go out and give that to everybody else.
Right.
Like, you're called to go and be more empathetic. This is the difficulty we run into. We often like to tell everybody else what they should do and haven't done what you guys are saying and turn it inwards first. Right?
Right.
And if we just showed what empathy looks like, people are going to go, oh, that looks good and that feels good.
Right.
Maybe I need to do that for the next person.
Right.
Right?
Right. Yep. Living a life of simplicity needs to draw that out. What else should it be drawing out?
Well, now I got to make sure that my iPad's on. But it just leads to better mental health.
Yes.
Across the board.
Yep.
Like the lack of simplicity is destroying our mental health. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm sorry to all the people who their simple one thing is social media. Mm-hmm. I don't think social media is bad. We've talked about it. Yep. It's not bad, but it is when it is your dopamine release.
Mm-hmm. When it's your unhealthy coping mechanism.
Well, okay. So here's what I've noticed about myself with social media.
Okay.
And like relating it to consumerism.
Yeah.
Okay. I find that if I'm seeing a lot or I'm following a lot of people who are like, influencers as in products, like clothes, hair, makeup, all that kind of stuff. That's when I feel like, oh, I need more stuff.
Right.
I need to go shopping. I need to, like I do need another pair of shoes, or I need this. That's the time when I'm like, oh, am actually literally being influenced. Mm-hmm. And if I'm not seeing all that, I don't care. Mm-hmm. Like typically, not that I don't see needs like, oh, my shoes are trash. I do need a new pair because they're literally falling apart. But it's when I am influenced by a lot of it in my, what was that? I just missed.
He was looking at your shoes.
Yeah, these ones are great.
Give an example.
I have to go, okay, let's take a step back. This is impacting me negatively. Mm-hmm. I need to unfollow these people. I need to make sure I'm not seeing this in my feed because this is causing me to feel like I need more. Yeah. When in reality, if I'm not seeing these things, I'm not thinking about them. Yeah. I'm not looking for them. I'm not out shopping. I'm not doing all these things because, So we need to watch and really actually take inventory of how the social media is affecting us.
100%.
And I think that goes across. I think we can very easily just sort of go to the infinite scroll and blame that. Like this is Instagram and TikTok. You know, people are watching YouTube. Yeah. Hollywood's been doing this for 80 years. Yeah. It was commercials before. Like Michael Jordan was telling people to drink Coke and eat cheeseburgers in the 80s.
Yeah, exactly. We like to villainize things like social media, but it's like it's just entertainment, and we all at some point want and like value entertainment because it gives us a little bit of a rest or a break or whatever. But we just need to watch how much is entertainment the only thing that matters in our life,
right? And we have to remember that like we're responsible for what we're looking at and what we're doing too, right? Like we said this, we talked about social media as a whole in an episode, but like that's a tool. So the tool in itself is great, but we just have to be careful, like you said. And I think the sneaky thing too about that is not only are you influenced to then like buy new shoes or buy this Fenty Beauty product, you're then thinking like, you're leaning into comparison. You're like leading into gluttony. You're leading into like, I need this. I want this. Why don't I have this? How can I be like this? How can I look like this? How can my job be like this? Why is that family so perfect? My kids are not meeting these milestones. Why is like, right?
We're no longer content.
Snowballs into, there's so many layers to it as opposed to just like, I need those shoes, right? It goes so much deeper, right?
Yeah. I think that what it really is sort of a microcosm of people's value. People talk about things like self-confidence. Yeah. And I just think that confidence isn't an issue. I think we have a ton of confidence. Right. I think we're overconfident, but I don't think we value ourselves.
I don't think we have worth. Yes.
Exactly. I don't think we have self-value. I think that people are trying to make and create self-value, right? And so we do label ourselves because that label makes me feel valuable.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But that isn't going to work.
Right.
Because even anything that we, like any political group that we join, it's going to be hated at some point. Like any kind of fandom, we become Swifties or we become whatever, those things aren't going to do it. And nothing of this world where moth and rust destroy is really going to give us self-value. But like the interaction and the simplicity of relationship with God is going to take you places you can't even ask or imagine. Like Ephesians, come on, like it is true. It is absolutely true that we can be a part of this world, like in this world, but not of it.
Yes.
Like we can take part in social media and be just oozing Jesus.
Yep. I remember earlier we talked about how Jesus modeled his detachment to the society and the world that he was living in. He was still part of it, but he wasn't attached to it, like his identity wasn't attached to it. Yeah. And that's exactly what we have to do. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. And which I love when Jesus is like, when it was the issue of taxes and he was like, who's on this coin? Yeah. Like, give to Caesar what's Caesar's. And why did he say that though? He said that because like this is where moths and rust destroy. Yeah. Who cares? Give that to him.
Yep. And that's fleeting.
Yeah.
That's not forever. That's not coming with us when we're in eternity.
So give that to Caesar. This is his. His face is on it. Give it to him. Yeah. I've got something so much greater. Yeah. But the greater that he has for us will include all of the things that are in the world, right? They will include, might include Instagram for somebody. But Instagram is not your God. Right. It might include finances for somebody. Money is not your God. Yep. And if we let him lead it, I think that it's just mind-blowing. I do, because I think that then it becomes about him. It becomes about what, like we're actually sort of selling to the world Jesus, and they can have their lives transformed by coming into whatever he has us doing, whether that's being a pastor, being an accountant, owning a business. Yep. Being a teacher, all these different things, right? So I love it.
Yeah, and that's the simplicity that we're talking about, right? The simplicity of being present with Jesus here and now and doing what he asks us to do.
Yeah, and your self-value just comes from that relationship.
Yep, everything flows out, like all the contentment, the generosity, the compassion, all of that is the fruit and intertwines and flows out of the simplicity of living with Jesus and being with him.
So that is where we want to get to. And that's just, some. Right? In this discussion, we could probably, somebody could do their PhD on probably contentment. Yep. Right? Yeah. So like we're obviously not solving the world's problems.
Nope. But this is just our starting point. Yeah. Like this is where we suggest you start, like take inventory, ask Jesus, sit with him, sit with it, see where you need that to be. And then you need to take inventory of the fruit. Yeah. Right? All the fruit assess, right? Like assess. Yeah. Am I being more content? Yeah. Am I being more compassionate, empathetic, and generous and all the things and so much more, right? Oh, but man.
But just start with sitting
with him. Start with that. Yeah.
Start with sitting with him. Yeah. All of these things that we do is just to I don't know, maybe this will hit 2 people, 3 people. I don't care if that's all it hits. And it causes somebody to go, that is a discipline I've never had and I need to do something. Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Jesus started with 12.
Yeah, it's true.
If we get one, right on. Okay, cool. Does anybody have any last thoughts that they need to say? Like it's just been eating at you. I've got to say this thought because if I don't say it, I'm disobeying the Lord. Because he's not going to like, you know, you don't have an opportunity for him to be like, get you later so that you can say
that's it. This is it. Once and for all.
This is a once and for all, actually, because the episode's done right away.
No, I think we covered everything that we wanted to talk about in simplicity.
Okay. Shan?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. No scripture?
Well, deny yourself daily and take up your cross and follow him.
Very
Luke
cool.
9.
Yeah.
23.
There you go. Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully this helped you in some way. Hopefully even it, you know, I hope it's
got you thinking at least.
I hope it gives you a 5-minute
Ponder
a
session.
5-minute simplicity discipline.
There we go.
I'd be so curious if people would let us know if this is something that they participate in.
Yes.
What do you do to live simply?
Yeah,
that'd be helpful.
That'd be really helpful.
Yeah.
Please
Helpful.
like send us a DM, comment on the YouTube video, comment on our Instagram. I think we need to be talking about this conversation a lot more in church. So let's start doing that. Start with us. Let's do it.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Love
Thank
y'all.
you so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to There Must Be More podcast, a production of Bethel, Ottawa. You can catch us on YouTube, where we would love it if you liked and subscribed. You can also catch us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.